Welcome back, folks, to Let's Play Super Robot Tyson J. In our last exciting episode, we've taken out the Gradosian threat from SPT Laser, the Jovian lizards from Kido Senkan Nareshiko, and of course the forces of Zaft from Kido Senshi Gundam Shido. Now I'd like to take this time out for a bit of more history about the history of certain super robots. And this time we shall go with the one and only robot who needs no intro, but is surely in need of explanation. That, my friends, belongs to none other if I can actually find him. Well, the one and only Mazinger Z. But in this game, he is known by another name, which is Mazinkaiser. There he is. Mazinkaiser, with the Kaiser Skrander, or as it is preferably known as Mazinkaiser KS. Now, Mazinkaiser was originally a 7-part OVA. It takes place a few years after the original series, Mazinger Z, Great Mazinger, and UFO Grandizer. Mazinkaiser is considered to be called the Mazinger to surpass all Mazingers. He, of course, is piloted by Koji Kabuto, and from what the OVA stated, knowing it was done by Go Nagai, it was very tongue-in-cheek. There have been some episodes in which just had fan service and, of course, abrupt nudity. The theme song theme songs that you hear during the game, which in Japanese is called Mazinkaiser Z, or the Demon God Arise. If I could just show this. The original one was Fire Wars, and let me give you a bit of what it sounds like. Fire Wars, of course, was done by none other than Jam Project. Its secondary theme song was also done by Jam Project. Now you're probably wondering, how does Mazinkaiser fit in the SRW lore and universe? Well, he has appeared in various games, after J anyway. He has appeared in Original Generations, I believe Original Generations. Mazinger has also been appearing in SRW Z and Z2. Also, it has been appeared in W. And W is on the Nintendo DS. So therefore, in order, he's been appearing in J, W, perhaps L. I'm thinking Original Generations. If I am wrong, please correct me. And various others like Z and Z2. Of course, if you have ever seen his moves, in which most of you have probably seen his moveset, let's play something a little bit different. Well, you can't really play anything different. His moves are as follows. You got the photon beam, which I call out as Kyoshiku beam, just like the anime. A giant missile, which, just like Combattler V, is an explosive missile that fires from its crotch. Rust Tornado is an improved version of the Rust Hurricane. Terrible Smasher Punch is the upgraded form of the Rocket Punch and the Iron Cutter. Kaiser Blade is a new one because, as you know, Mazinger Z actually does have the original Mazinger Z actually has a blade, but the thing is, he rarely uses it. The Kaiser Blade, however, is inside his arms, in which he can pull out if need be. Whereas if he were to, draw it out, it would come from the back of his arms. The Scrander Boomerang is really the Kaiser Scrander being thrown at his enemies with a limited amount of 4 times. And as you can see, it is downright deadly. Fire Blaster is the super upgraded version of the Breast Fire. Not only is it damaging by itself, but coupled with Tetsuya's Breast Burn, it is super damaging and causes colossal amounts of damage. The final Kaiser Blade. It is one swift strike, which delivers an ass load of damage. Perhaps about, in a word, about 15,000 straight up, 30,000 if used with Hot Blood, otherwise known as Valor. Now, when you first get Mazinkaiser, the one thing you have to do is you have to fight Mazinkaiser, and it is at that time unmanned. And when you fight him, he has about 30,000 HP. He'll be attacking the Photon Power Labs in one battle. And the thing is, you have a lot in account in said mission. Not only do you have to deal with the Mecha Beast, but you also have to deal with Baron Ashura, in which there's no shame if you take him out first. Therefore, you focus all your attention on Mazinkaiser. And the only thing you have to do is basically whittle him down to, I believe, 30,000. Well, from 30,000 to 3,000. It has to be at least around 10% of health. So I'm guessing either around 30,000 to at least a range between 3,000 to 1,500. Therefore, once you do that, you trigger something. Therefore, that means you got it. But you won't be able to use it until a later mission. And of course, you will only have the grounded version until later, in which Million Alpha gives you the Scrander Boomerang, and then you can be able, and then the unit will be enabled to fly, which will be a great thing in itself because it's a powerful unit. And the fact that it has that much power, you want that power on your side. What most people do is they usually don't use Mazinkaiser the entire time in which when you don't get him, when you do get him, you don't use him because he's grounded. But when he's grounded like that and you can still get him, or rather, once he's grounded, most people just don't use him until he gets the Scrander. Until he gets the Kaiser Scrander, he's useless. But I see it as this: I use him anyway, just because he's the most powerful unit in your party. You should have him out on the field. Now, on top of that, let us move to the partner in crime, Great Mazinger. Great Mazinger, of course, has been introduced in his title series, Great Mazinger, piloted by Tetsuya Tsurugi. He has been, say, the big brother of Mazinger Z, as it were. Now, originally, he has 3, 4, 5 attacks. Of course, when you first start off in this game, you actually have the prototype and not the actual unit. So as the prototype, you get Mazinger Blade, Atomic Punch, Breast Burn, Thunder Break, and that's it. But later, when the prototype is destroyed, you actually get the actual Great Mazinger. And the difference here is that the real Great Mazinger has Drill Pressure Punch, Breast Burn, Thunder Break, Double Thunder Break, and the Great Booster. What I can say about this unit, he's more mobile than Mazinger Z or Mazinkaiser. I usually use him to my full extent, especially when there's a need for, say, a speedy unit. Plus, he has definite power to boot, which is good because in certain levels you need that kind of speed and power when things get really rough. I use him at least 90% of the time along with Mazinkaiser in most of the battles that you usually see on J and D, and of course, well, any SRW game excluding Saga and Muscle Kenshin. Definitely, he is a force to be reckoned with. And if you are playing along with me, which most of you probably are, you will find out that Great Mazinger basically just has a lot of power to him. He has a lot of power. And he can be a tank if you know how to use him correctly. He is also an energy guzzling machine, because since most of his attacks are purely energy based, I say get something that will make him regen his energy. Like every turn, have a certain part, like say a solar panel. Solar panels are good because you wouldn't need that just to regen energy every time. If you can get a little more than 10%, or at least borderline 20, you have it made. Such other units, such as Boss Barat, and Million Alpha, and even Venus A, formerly Aphrodite A. I'd like to say that I would like to keep up with Venus A, but I don't know. She falls back on the wayside. She scores more misses than hits, so therefore I usually keep her on the wayside. Million Alpha, I like this unit more because not only is it a flight unit, but also it can nurse you back to health. Whether you have repairs or you need a resupply unit, that is more efficient than Saika's unit, or what she has to swap out with June. I haven't even swapped out with June since. Now, what most people don't realize, that in the Super Robot Tyson universe, I do believe that most of the units, excluding Million Alpha, have been there since the original Super Robot Tyson games. Like from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to later games. They all been there, so it's pretty much the Mazinger units are pretty much the veterans of the series within the Super Robot Tyson universe. But really, if you really want to just push the envelope, yeah, you definitely want Mazinkaiser on your side, as well as having Boss. If you know how to use Boss, Boss can actually be a real great asset, really. I mean, most people look down at Boss Barat because it is mainly a repair unit, but it can also be an attack unit if you know what to do with him. And as you see, he has the following attacks: the Iron Fist, the Chain Attack, the Killer Butt Slam and Home Run, and the Rolling Crusher, and last but not least, just in case, the Self-Destruct. Of course, I would never use that unless if it is a last resort. And it's safe to say I never used it as a last resort because there was no need. But since it is a flight unit, because if you have, say, something like a flight unit, yeah, see, Boss Barat 2 is a supply unit, and also it can also be your fighter too. So therefore, you kind of want to do one or the other. You either want to make him into an all fighter, or you can make him into an all healer. That depends upon your preference. But many people it's kind of like a love-hate relationship with Boss Barat. Mainly because he's gag material. And being that, Boss is, that much of gag material, you can see how weird Boss Barat is. It kind of makes sense. But then again, hey, sometimes you need a little gag in your life, so, kind of works out. Now, for Million Arm, it only has 3 good attacks. Well, yeah, 3 attacks. One in which requires that, but I don't think you really want that. It has been used in the series, so therefore, yeah, that's the last resort. I mean, that's the only thing about Boss Barat and Million Alpha. They have that one last resort in which you don't want to use unless you're totally desperate. And therefore, you want to stay away from using Self-Destruct. Now, Million Alpha also has the Million Arm, which is basically a rush-in attack. And what that happens is, if leveled right, like I have mine leveled at a good attack strength, you can dish out at least 7,000 points worth of damage. Or so, depending. The Chodenshi Cannon is an alright beam attack, but it has a chance of hitting and missing. But if you're like me and make it all S, 9 out of 10 times the attack will get through. So, the Mazinger series within the SRW universe has been a staple. It is pretty much one of the big three that makes the trinity of SRW. The other two are, of course, Getarobo and Gundam, or in this case, RX-78. So, I hope that cleared up a few things about Mazinkaiser. If you really want to find the series, you can look on gogoanime.net, or you can check out on YouTube. Just find Mazinkaiser. Not Mazinkaiser SKL, but Mazinkaiser. Yes, I know about SKL, but I don't really count it as like, a real series. That's more like a fan-made anime. But as far as the mainstream series is concerned, the series actually ended off with Mazinkaiser, and of course there was an OVA movie that was a remake of a 1974 movie called Great Mazinger versus Ankoku Daishogun, or the Great General of Darkness. Anyway, when I come back, there'll be more intermissions, and then after which we will take on the final 3 areas of the game. When Let's Play Super Robot Tyson J continues right after this.